Hello, welcome back to the channel. So out of all the original paths, Harmony has had the most consistently good characters since the game came out. The only ones that aren't that great are the 4 stars, who most of them weren't even that good when they came out. But even with the 4 stars, Team Game is still a decent option. Even with the power creep the game has had, almost all of them are still good options. So why is Harmony almost always so good? Well, unlike the DPS paths or even the sustain paths, Harmony doesn't really have any other path to compete. You could argue like Nihility, but debuffing on average is just nowhere near as good as giving your own characters buffs. The only other path that comes kind of close is Remembrance, but there's only really 2 characters in that path that buff, which don't get me wrong, those are very good characters, but I think Harmony overall just does that job more consistently and just better overall. So it just not really having much competition makes their role a lot more valuable and feel worth pulling for more. On top of that, Harmony and supports in general are what elevates your team's damage to that next level. You can have a really good DPS and that will definitely help you a lot, but if you don't have the supports for them, you are only going to be able to get so far. And to go with that, a lot of Harmony characters are what make a lot of teams just work at all. Characters like Aglaya and Saber even are way worse without Sunday, with how much they rely on energy. Sparkle is, very similar with Archer, who needs a lot of skill points. You got Robin for follow-up teams, though with Trippy now, she isn't quite as necessary, though she is still really good. Ron May is still, the only real, break support that does what she does. Even Ceredra makes characters like Finon a lot better, and makes main DPS Anaxa kind of really work at all, you can feel when you don't have a certain Harmony character for a team, because it just feels way clunkier to play. And I would know, as someone who has lost on almost every single Harmony character I have tried to get. The other thing that makes Harmony so good is that they are just some of the most versatile characters in the game. One problem with some other paths is that the characters can often feel pretty niche. Nihility, for example, has a lot of characters where if you don't have other specific characters, or archetypes set up, you aren't really going to pull for them. For example, Jiao Cho if you don't have Acheron, or even most of the dot characters if you don't have a dot team, which I think it's fine to have some characters be more niche, but as someone who values versatility a lot, especially with how limited Jade's have been, I think being able to work on multiple teams is pretty important for determining how strong a path overall is, Now, obviously, some Harmony characters are more niche than others. The biggest example would probably being Ceredra, who only really works with 2 characters because of them needing to be mainly skill-based to work. Now, this obviously could change if we get more skill-based DPSs in the future, but right now she is definitely the most niche. But the others, I would say, can work with a decent amount of teams. Sunday is great in general, since a 30% damage increase with an action advance is just good, and almost every single character needs energy. Robin, outside of Break, is great on a lot of teams, especially ones that want to attack a lot. Even Ron May, which is mainly for Break, is good outside of that. She's a great alternative choice for casters. She's even good with Finon teams if you're going for a no sustain kind of thing. I think people underestimate how versatile most of the Harmony characters are because of just how well they work with their best team. And also just the fact that they have the most easy access to action events, which is probably the strongest mechanic in the game, just makes them even better. Because I believe the only other characters that have that is Remembrance MC. At least I can give it to other characters. And just having a Harmony character on your team is always going to be useful, since every single team needs one. So even if it isn't the most optimal, they will still help you, since the difference between having buffs and not is huge. So Harmony characters in general are just some of the least susceptible to power creep in the game. Obviously they still have it, every path does. I mean, the buffs Tribby gives for basically free while working in almost any team is insane. But almost all the characters that used to be good are still good to this day. Even if they did get, helped by certain characters coming out, like with Sparkle. Bronya is still the best standard character, and it isn't really close. Ron May came out in 1.6, and is still really good. The only one that I would say is kind of on the edge is Sparkle, because she's really only good in in skill point teams, and maybe in a couple other teams, but even then I feel Sunday or Remembrance of Z in most of those cases would just be better. But she is still definitely good. The one that I would say I think had the biggest fall off would be Harmony MC, but I think that is mainly because few coming out and doing the same job but just better. Remembrance MC being insane, and Break overall just not really being that great right now. But like besides that, the characters that were good when they came out are still good now. Like obviously some of them aren't as good as when they came out, but they're still good, And I say it like that because I know people will say, oh, but characters like Yukong or Handia aren't good, and like, yeah, they weren't good even when they came out, so those are more just like outliers and just have problems with their kits themselves, Like one thing that also does definitely help a lot is them having a pretty decent selection of light cones. I mean, just having, Dance 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 automatically puts them up because that is just one of the best light cones in the game in general, because of just how easy you can use it and how good a lot of Harmony characters can use it. But besides that, the Bronya signature is pretty good, especially for, fight-on teams to get his ultimate as fast as possible with, the extra skill point, that kind of thing. In Pursuit for, Raw and May. The Forever Victil for Sridra. They just, on average, have, I think, better light cones than most other paths, even if they do still have some questionable ones like Dreamville Adventure, which is just way too hard to get value out of. It definitely helps that Harmony gets characters pretty frequently, unlike some other paths. Just this year alone, we got Sunday, and then 2 hours later, we got Trippy, and then a bit after that, we got Sridra, and I wouldn't be surprised if we got one 4.0 or close to that, because we always get a Harmony character for the archetype that they're trying to build up. Like, Harmony overall just feels like the one path that is almost never a bad pull, since they will almost always be useful to your team in some way. Now, how long will that last? I'm not sure, since the other paths I think are starting to catch up with Harmony a bit. Like, Nihility has gotten a lot better, with Silwolf getting, the buff to her ultimate and being a lot better than before, and Cypher as well just being a pretty good option on a lot of teams. Remembrance also in general being insane with Remembrance MC, and, Cyrene as well, though she's mainly only really good with the Crystal Snares, Now, I don't know how long that will last, because I don't know how many Remembrance characters we're actually going to get in version 4. But for now, Harmony is definitely the most consistently good path in the game. If you're just ever unsure of who to pull for, just get a Harmony character, since they will probably be good on your account, or even essential for some teams down the line. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.